Have you ever been to Georgia?
I haven't.
I've always liked the way they talk.
It's kind of more of a Southern Belle type accent here in Georgia.
It is.
I like it. It's very,
We're saying you don't like mine?
This week, we're investigating a cold case in Columbus, Georgia, home to Kirby's Speed Shop and its beloved owner, William Kirby Smith.
This case is only 10 years old, and Kirby was only 50 years old.
Right.
He sounded like he was a spunky, one-of-a-kind, good old Southern boy. NASCAR,
Yes.
beer drinking,
Just having fun.
four-wheeling, mud hogging, country boy.
Kind of odd, huh, that somebody would want to walk in and put 2 bullets in them.
Yeah.
On March 7th, 2004, Kirby had spent the whole day with his son, having fun, racing dune buggies, and then decided to go by his shop. And at some point that night, Kirby was shot and killed.
We have to start with his estranged wife, any people she might have been involved with, anybody else that was mad at him over business dealings or anything like that.
It's a case with a lot of witnesses, and you have to believe that with so many people still around who knew them, somebody knows more than they've ever said before, and that's the hope for solving the case.
It has been 16 years and still no answer.
Police consider her killing a cold case.
Years later, the case is still unsolved.
There are so many cold cases out there just waiting to be solved.
The crime scene ultimately tells the story of the murder.
We want to bring justice to these victims. Who's Randy?
I'm Randy.
Nice to meet you. I'm Kelly.
Nice to meet you. Matt
Hi,
Blackstock.
nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
We have a lot of witnesses in this case, so in addition to working with the Columbus Police Department, I've called in 2 of my friends from Houston, Alan Brown and Abby Abadondolo.
So none of these people know we're coming, then, is that? Nobody knows we're coming.
Look who we brought.
Man.
Randy,
Hey, I'm Abby.
Matt, this is Alan and Abby.
Randy?
Randy Long took over this case in 2007, and Matt Blackstock caught the case way back when it happened 10 years ago. We're excited to have him because he has more knowledge about this case than anybody else in the universe.
This was my first real, true whodunit homicide. Not hardly a day went by that this case didn't stick in my mind. I had Kirby's picture up by my office door for the past 10 years. That's the driving force to never give up. Call came in about a shooting victim, and when we got there, it was a mechanic type place where they work on cars and stuff. And we got inside. He was laying on his back with a gunshot wound to the back of the head with an exit to the face. I remember 2 shell casings, which ended up being 9mm.
Did he have money
There
on
was,
him?
yes, there was up to $800 in cash on him.
Which made you think what?
Robbery was not the motive. No self-respecting robber would leave that kind of cash behind him.
Gosh,
The first thing you
no.
do is turn his pockets
Yeah,
inside out.
there's no way. During the entire course of the investigation, we could never find anything bad about what Kirby was involved in.
Everybody liked the guy. There was over 1,000 people at his funeral. And I understand as a mechanic, he could fix anything. He liked to race cars, and I hear that he was gracious.
We could not find any kind of shenanigans going on in the background except for the person he was married to. They were going through a difficult divorce.
Talking about Becky.
Becky.
Okay.
Tell me why you wouldn't do something like this.
Why I wouldn't kill
Why
him?
you wouldn't?
I wouldn't do that to my children. Those children loved Kirby.
Okay. Estranged wife,
Estranged wife.
which is separate and apart from nasty divorce. Custody issues and money issues and property issues and a prenup. The timing of this case is pretty suspicious because it happened the day before Kirby was supposed to meet with his lawyer to finalize his divorce. How about the real motive here? Life insurance.
Life insurance.
How much was he worth?
Well, we know 250.
All the interest was building on it as well.
Let's put 250,000 plus.
This is more like a Hollywood murder.
In love with Heath?
Oh, yes. Andrew Heath Haynie.
Heath Haynie was involved with Becky at the same time she was going through a very ugly divorce.
He marries her 3 months later. And
Pretty freaking fast.
Him and Rebecca had talked about what it would cost to kill somebody. He even brought this same conversation up at work, but he said they were just joking. To me, he was actively seeking some information on how to pull off a murder.
Okay. And last, we have Bull. Bull Phillips is one of our suspects because he was involved in an unusual relationship with Becky.
He wants the relationship to be more than what it is. She never openly said they had a sexual relationship.
Okay. It's possible that Bull might have been so desperate to please Becky that he would have killed for her. But without evidence of a sexual relationship between the two of them, it's going to be a lot harder to prove that.
He doesn't come across as having a very high IQ. I could see somebody like Rebecca being able to manipulate him.
Do we care about he's the babysitter, he's the...
Yeah, I mean, he's her bitch.
Yeah. This case is tough because all three of our suspects have seemingly solid alibis for the very night of this murder. Becky was at work when it happened. Bull's at a friend's house, and he was allegedly out of town. So it's our job to try and figure out who's telling the truth, who's lying, and exactly what happened the night of Kirby's death. We're going to go meet Kirby's children from his first marriage, Heather and Dustin.
I'm so excited to be here.
I'm Kelly.
I'm Dustin.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, I'm Heather.
Nice to meet you.
Heather and Dustin were robbed of not having their father in their life for the last 10 years.
Talk about your family.
I'm the oldest and the cutest.
I'm the biggest, but the youngest.
We have the same mom.
Okay.
Same dad.
And
we
your
have a little
mom is
brother
Carolyn?
with a different mom. My mom is Carolyn.
Okay.
And then we have little Kirby. His mom is Becky, but we all have the same dad.
How old is he now?
He's 17.
Okay. Tell us about your dad.
Awesome person. Do anything for anybody.
You know, it was always fun. We hugged him every time we saw him and every time we left.
He hugged everybody.
I'd just be daydreaming out the window, and all of a sudden you just get patted in the chest, and, you know, my dad's driving, and he just said, you know, I love you. Because of him, there's probably not much I can't do, because, you know, we always just fixed or did everything ourselves.
He liked hands-on, get your hands kind of dirty. He wouldn't sit me up on a pedestal, let me be a princess. I had to go to his shop and put my hands in the vat and wash race car parts and do boy stuff. I had a lot of issues with jealousy from Becky because we were really close in age. I think she's like 8 or 9 years older than me.
You're probably your daddy's baby.
Yeah. She had put taps on my phone line just trying to catch me doing something wrong so she could throw me under the bus. And so I left, and I didn't talk to my dad for 3 years because of her. I even got married, and I sent him an invitation. She sent it back. So my dad didn't even come to my wedding. Dustin walked me down the aisle and gave me away at my wedding.
Because of Becky?
Mm-hmm. When we finally got back together, it was like we were closer than ever. I think he realized how much he missed me.
They didn't talk for 3 years, but when they start talking, it's just like it never missed a beat.
Can y'all talk about the day that you found out he was murdered?
I went to work at the dentist office, and we hadn't even started seeing patients yet, and the phone rang, and they said, your mom's on the phone. So I just hear her crying in the background. She says, your dad. And I was like, what? She said, your dad's dead. And that was I thought maybe he had a heart attack or he had wrecked his Corvette he had just bought. I never in a million years thought that somebody would have killed him. And I still can't believe that somebody would do that.
What did you think when you heard he was shot?
Becky.
Right away?
That's the only person I could think at the time that could benefit from it, you know, that
or have
would
a reason.
Be happy
Nobody else had
that
a
he
reason.
was gone because nobody else would want him dead. Nobody.
Can you remember when was the first time you talked to and saw Becky after it happened?
At the funeral home when we were making arrangements, maybe?
I think so. But it wasn't, I'm sorry for your loss. It was, where's this? Where's that?
What was she asking for?
Cars.
Oh, property?
You know, property.
That they
like
had
that.
together?
Yeah.
I miss my daddy's hugs. And I miss his big, crunchy hands. When we used to walk into stores or whatever, he'd always grab my hand. And I remember when he used to drop me off at school, he had so much sugar and cream in his coffee. And he would give me a kiss on my cheek when I got out of the car, and I'd have a sticky spot on my face all day when I went to school. So I just miss little things like that.
Y'all seem like a wonderful family. Just let us get busy, and as soon as we know something, we'll let y'all know.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm so excited you're here. Thank you.
I love those two. They're genuinely sincere, good people who love their dad and really, really want us to help solve their dad's case. God, I freaking love them.
All right, guys, we are going to go to the crime scene so that we can see this firsthand, what that office looked like, where Kirby was obviously murdered in his shop. I'm getting the impression by the photos it's going to be really small, so it's going to be interesting to see actually how many of us we can even really get in there. One of the very helpful things about visiting our crime scene today is that we have Matt.
What's up, man? Hey, how are you this morning?
He's the first officer that arrived at Kirby's speed shop after the murder. He knows firsthand what the crime scene looked like, but will that help us find out who the killer was that day? Kirby Smith was mysteriously murdered in his auto shop in 2004. Today we're looking at Kirby's speed shop for any new clues that might identify his killer.
Back then, he had a desk going across the back wall. His computer was set up with a chair that he would have been sitting in at the time of the incident.
We know from forensic analysis done on Kirby's computer that his online activity abruptly ended at 8:58 p.m. So we believe that Kirby must have been killed immediately after that. What really caught my eye was how clean the floor is. I don't think there was any kind of struggle in here.
Right.
There's no forced entry, right? You
Right.
guys didn't
No
see
forced
that?
entry.
The location of Kirby's body indicates that he was sitting down at his desk when he was first shot at point-blank range. And it's about 15 feet between the desk and the front door. Factor in no signs of struggle, it's obvious that Kirby must have felt comfortable enough with his killer to let them approach him.
Okay, let Harvey sit in that chair looking at the wall as if he's on the computer. And then Yolanda, you walk us through being the shooter and what you think happened.
Shooter comes in the door, sees Kirby sitting at his computer. We know that the first round enters right here in the back of the left shoulder, hitting both lungs, part of the heart. His lungs, his chest cavity, everything is filling up with blood. He falls down. He's bleeding out of his mouth onto the floor and onto his hand. Shooter then puts it to the base of the skull, shoots. The bullet comes out of the bridge of the nose, and he just falls over. From the burn marks on Kirby's clothes and the soot in his wounds, it's clear that both of Kirby's wounds were contact wounds, which means that the firearm was pressed against Kirby's body when it was fired. Now, we have two live rounds, one that's on this side, and then one by our victim's head. When you get that contact, sometimes it jams the gun. When a semi-automatic pistol fires, the spent shell casing is automatically ejected by the slide. But when an object blocks the muzzle, the slide is often restricted, causing a stovepipe jam. The only way to clear the jam is to manually rack the slide, which should eject the jammed, unfired round onto the floor.
The contact with a cheap gun that would restrict the slide action will stovepipe it every time.
I think it speaks volumes when someone puts a bullet in the back of someone's head just to make sure you are dead.
It's more like an execution.
It is. It is execution.
Anyone can shoot someone from a distance, 10 feet, 20 feet, and shoot them in the back. But to walk right up and push the barrel of the gun up to the back of their head, that's incredibly personal.
We get to hear a bunch of Georgia accents today.
Get to hear some Southern bells.
This case is only 10 years old, so that means we have a lot of witnesses that are still alive and still around. I'll interpret for you.
Oh, I understand them. It's you Texans.
First up is Kirby's employee, Lee Shepard. He's the one who found Kirby's body that morning.
When's the last time that you saw Kirby alive?
Sunday, we had a family reunion up at Pine Mountain. And he actually told me that day, I think I made a deal with her. He said she wanted $20,000 in her doom buggy, and they would call it Evie. And then Monday morning is when I went to the shop and I found her.
Lee and Kirby worked together for years. What we want to know is what Lee knows about Kirby and Becky's relationship and how hostile it was.
So when you're working for him at the shop, do you have any specific incidents?
Oh, yes. She's smacked him. She just didn't hit him.
And when we say smacked, is it like just a hit on the shoulder?
No, a smack in the face, or she's punching him in the face. We were at the races one weekend, and she went after him with a tire iron.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So how would you describe Becky?
As a lunatic, really. She wanted everything. I mean, because she'd come in, she goes, this is my place. This was her shop. I know one thing, I wouldn't want to be in Becky's way if she got pissed off.
One evening, she came running down the driveway and kicked in my front door on the trailer that I was living in. We tried to hide from her because I was scared.
Did he ever mention to you if she had ever threatened him?
Oh, yes. She told him a number of times that she would kill him or have him killed.
She threatened to kill him, is that right?
That's absolutely. He said that she would poke him in the sleep with a needle or something and kill him.
He told you that?
He told me that face to face.
I think Becky killed him. I think she did it herself. She is a very intelligent person. Do not be lulled into thinking otherwise.
I believe that Kirby was set up. Something went bad. The boyfriend was there somewhere, somehow, because it wasn't long before she married the old boyfriend.
Everyone we talked to says that Becky had it in for Kirby, and she wanted him dead by any means possible.
You know, when you go through a divorce, there's all kinds of feelings of being mad, and I'm gonna get that son of a bitch, I'm taking everything. But we didn't have that anymore. We totally agreed on everything.
Did you ever threaten to kill Kirby?
Oh, yeah, I said stuff like that. Hell, I've told my present husband I'll kill him probably a couple times. But he's still walking the face of the earth.
Becky and Heath got married just 3 months after Kirby's murder, and both of them benefited from that $250,000 life insurance policy. It's time for us to try and figure out more about the relationship between Becky and Heath.
Hello.
And whether or not he wanted Kirby dead out of jealousy or anger or because Becky manipulated him.
How would you describe their relationship?
From what I understand, he's totally different with her than he was with me.
In what way?
With me, he was very controlling, and it seems like with her, he's the one being controlled. The role kind of reversed.
Really?
They did things to just torture me.
Like what?
Like putting fake ads in Craigslist with my phone number attached to them.
Really?
They had somebody following me when I went out with my girlfriend, taking pictures of me. There's a book that they keep of all the things that they've done to me. Newspaper ads, custody papers.
Becky and Heath turned Heath's ex's life into a living hell. And it sounds like when they did it, Becky was calling all the shots.
But if you think of anything else, we would appreciate it if y'all give Harvey a call.
I will say this. I just feel like she's holding something over his head and he wouldn't do what he's doing.
Becky is definitely our strongest suspect in Kirby's murder. But what we have to figure out is, did she do it alone or did someone else pull the trigger? We know that Becky and Heath had the most to gain from Kirby's death, and we know Becky was a very manipulative woman.
Want to sit on the bench?
It's time for us to talk to Heath to find out how far he was willing to go to make Becky happy.
How did you and Kirby get along?
I never talked to him except for one time on the phone.
How nasty of a divorce was it?
It was bad. All the money she put into everything, she wasn't getting nothing. He was going to take little Kirby.
You told the police that you and her talked about what it would take to have someone kill him.
I told her what a guy in the Marine Corps told me, and he told me with my first wife, all you got to do, he said, I can get rid of her. And I didn't want that. I mean,
Right.
Nobody wants that.
Right. Do you think behind your back she could have went out and got somebody to do it?
I honestly thought that. But there's no way. I mean, she was devastated when he died.
Did you ever wonder if there was something between Becky and Bull?
I did for a long time now, yeah.
Was Bull in love with her?
I think so.
But I'm going to tell you, I think you know more.
I know in my heart that I didn't do it.
You know what?
I know in my heart that she didn't do it.
She convinced
Everybody
you.
here thought she did it.
Right.
Not to mention, you know, her whole family.
But she convinced you then, because otherwise you wouldn't have married her.
Right.
I mean, that's...
Yeah, that would be stupid, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I like what we heard.
He said, I told the truth, man. I had nothing to hide. He still says he loves her. He still thinks she didn't do it. We weren't thinking he was going to say otherwise. Heath didn't offer anything incriminating about himself. His story still has not changed, and he seems very believable. But there are still too many questions to eliminate him as a suspect just yet. We're going to focus on Becky's actions the night of the murder. We know that she called Heath around the time of Kirby's murder. So we're going to look through her phone records to see if there are any other suspicious calls around that time.
He's actually on the phone with Becky. I think they make that call like at 9:10 or 9:08. He's dead at 9 o'clock. But if you take all the records that they got, Becky and Bull typically talk anywhere from 5 to 15 times a day. Then all of a sudden, on the day of the murder, there's 29 total calls. It's 29, which is a lot.
I think that's a lot. Especially when he just left her house and within 15 minutes of leaving her home, he is calling like 12 times. What is so urgent?
Becky did call Heath right around 9 o'clock, which is the time of Kirby's murder, but it's all those calls from Bull that really stand out. He called her 29 times that day. Most suspiciously, he called her 8 times between 9 and 9:15, and then he called her 2 more times from a payphone at 9:30. He starts blowing up her phone after he's done it because he wants to tell her because he wants her to be impressed.
Of course.
She probably says, "You stupid bastard, alibi yourself."
I think for Bull, it's the concentration of calls highlighted by making a phone call from a payphone.
In his original statement, Bull claims that he was using the payphone because he was trying to get rid of some spare change. An excuse that I think anyone would agree is ridiculous.
That phone call from the payphone is what nails it for me.
It's clear we need to better understand Bull's relationship with Becky to find out if his rumored crush on her could have motivated him to murder in order to please her.
You mentioned Bull. Why would people cut you off whenever?
Just because he would help me out. Like when Kirby and I separated, he would help me with the kids. He was just a friend. I mean, he'd do anything for either one of us, not just for me.
What about Bull? Can you tell me much about him?
Quiet. I know he did whatever she asked him to do.
Like what? Like what would she ask him to do?
To go pick up something, go to the grocery store, whatever he was like her, go for it.
Were they ever together at all?
It would seem like that he did so much for her. What's he getting out of it?
Yeah.
But no, I don't know.
Would you say she was a manipulative person?
Oh, yes. She's told stories about her being in the bathtub and Bull sitting in the bathroom with her while she takes a bath. And yeah, I mean,
she told you
that's
that?
just a, but that's just a platonic relationship.
I have thought about this long and hard. My daughter, Becky, is adopted.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first thought I heard when Kirby was dead was she killed him.
That was your first thought?
Absolutely.
You know Bull?
I know Bull. He's her boy. He's dumb and a doornail. Dumb enough he lets her use him. Was she having a sexual affair with him, more than likely?
Is Jenny where we could go and talk to her?
My daughter?
Yeah. Can she come out, or we?
Yeah, she's in that front bedroom. I'll go get her.
Janice had not one good thing to say about her daughter. You know, we used to always say that you're so bad, the only person who loves you is your mother. And in this case, not even her. The whole time that y'all were back and forth to the apartment in Atlanta and all that, Bull ever come up there?
No. His usefulness ran out around the time that she got married.
With Heath?
Yes. They never really had a relationship. But he was always around. He was constantly looking to please her.
Do you think she's leading him on?
Yes. I mean, the way that she does most people. Becky's very exploitative. She's really just a mean kid with a magnifying glass and a bunch of ants.
This is Sergeant Matt Blackstock in Columbus, Georgia.
Yes, sir.
Could you go back to the night that all this took place with Bull showing up?
Bull's alibi for the night of Kirby's murder was that he left Becky's house around 8:45 p.m., went to the Taco Bell where he called Becky from that payphone, dropped by his friends Cynthia and Rusty Harmon's house around 9:30, and then went to work around 10:30.
I remember it being very strange. Bull called me, and he said that he was down on the corner, and he wanted to know if he could come by for a few minutes. No problem. I said, we're fixing to order pizza. Do you want something? And he said, no, I'm good. I've already eaten. So he comes over, and he was, I don't know, Bull is an odd dude anyway. Even for him, he was acting extremely distracted and irregular. So, well, I said, I guess we're going to order a pizza. And he said, oh, good, I'm starving. I said, I thought you said you already ate. And he said, well, he said I was down at the Taco Bell and was going to get something to eat. And I stood there for a minute, and I forgot what I was doing. So I just left. I'm like, okay.
that is pretty odd.
Who goes to Taco Bell and forgets to order dinner? Bull says he does. Really?
To the best of my knowledge, I cannot remember another time when he had been at our house. I mean, he never just called and dropped by.
We believe that Kirby was killed right at 9 p.m., and Becky's house is less than 3 miles from Kirby's shop. So after leaving Becky at her home at 8:45, Bull could have gone and killed Kirby, then called Becky multiple times to tell her about the murder. At that point, Becky probably told him to establish an alibi, which would explain why he dropped by the Harmon's house and he was acting so strangely.
It's almost like he's trying to come up with an alibi, trying to force an alibi by showing up over there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now that we've poked holes in Bull's alibi, we need to check Becky's. After all, if Bull did kill Kirby, he did it for Becky. Becky's alibi is that she was working as a nurse the night that Kirby was killed and that she was called in at the last minute. We were able to verify that was the truth. She was even captured on camera at work that night. But even though she couldn't have pulled the trigger, we all feel pretty sure that Becky orchestrated Kirby's murder.
If I were planning a murder, I would be like, well, I need to make sure I have an alibi. I didn't have any idea I had to go to work. I got paged and had to leave immediately and go in for a C-section in Warm Springs.
Becky's pretty smart. She's not going to go with a regular old alibi. She's going to make it even better and plan it to the degree that, oh my God, at the last minute, she got called into work, so she has a really good alibi.
We're interested in talking to you because Rebecca Smith was supposed to be on call that night. Can you tell us about that?
What we want to try and figure out is whether or not Becky could have even arranged to have this surprising new call into work as her alibi. If I'm Becky and I want to be able to alibi myself, tell me how, if there's a C-section coming up, I can use that to my advantage.
We normally have a list of patients that are pregnant, and the doctors and the nurses keep track of when they're due. You can look ahead and see if you want to be on call a certain weekend. I'm telling you, she can plan that. I'm telling you, she can plan that.
So that's seriously. We find out she's the one that started the call program. She's the one in charge of making the schedule and getting the nurses and setting it all up. Could she have been able to set up the schedule to where she was the one on call, knowing full well she might get called in that night? Well, heck yeah.
She came in that day. She was hysterical. She was crying out, laughing, then crying.
We've raised some serious doubts about Becky's alibi. She may not have shot Kirby herself, but add what we've learned about her violent temper, death threats, and life insurance payout, and the evidence suggests that Becky truly was the mastermind behind Kirby's murder. The question now is, who did Becky get to kill for her?
Yeah, we're here to shop. Go knock on his door.
Becky and Bull have always denied that they've had a sexual relationship.
He propositioned me for more, and I was like, no, you're like my brother.
But if they ever did, that would be all the more reason to believe that Bull had a motive to want Kirby dead. So it's time for us to talk to Bull.
Describe Becky to me. What kind of person did you see her as?
She was a real flirty person. That's about it.
When you're over at her house, did she ever take baths and all that kind of stuff in front of you?
Have I ever seen her naked? Yes, I will say that. She was taking a bath one time when I was over there. Yeah.
Did you and Becky ever have sex?
No, nothing regular.
Nothing regular?
No.
How many times would you say?
I don't recall.
Yeah?
Less than 5?
Yeah.
5 to 10?
Okay, finally, the truth comes out. Not only did we just catch Bull in a lie, it's clearer than ever just how Becky manipulated him.
Were you in love with Becky?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
You know, most murders are passion or because they're in love.
They'll do anything for somebody if they think they're going to get that person.
Nah, I wouldn't do that.
Do you think Becky has anything to do with Kirby's murder?
Not that I know of.
Did you ever hear Becky
ever ask you to find somebody to kill Kirby?
No, sir.
You ever hear her threaten to kill Kirby?
No, I haven't.
I think you got problems. I mean, with Becky, I mean, she's got you
in a pickle. And that's what we're trying to...
I ain't got nothing to do with it, so that's about all I can do.
All right, hang on.
I got a couple.
Hang on, I won't run you off, man.
I mean, I'm getting to a point.
Yeah.
I done went through this last time. I didn't have nothing to do with it. I'll tell you that. I had nothing to do with the murder.
Well, this is the thing, okay? It looks like you kind of do because on Sunday you call her 29 times, okay? So you call her all these times, and why do you use a payphone when...
Because she would block my calls a lot of times, wouldn't answer my phone.
Uh-huh.
So I called from a different number.
Oh, that's good. Today, Bull is saying he used a payphone because Becky used to screen her calls. That's not what he used to say.
In your statement to the police, you said that you left around 8:45. Where do you go at that time?
I went and got something to eat, and then I went over to my buddy Rusty's house.
Was that common?
I would go over there from time to time.
Yeah. But we talked to Cindy, and she said that you'd never been over there at night. And, of course, you see where I'm going with that. You're not a dummy. Is that, 45 minutes after somebody's killed, you're over at somebody's house. And they say, well, that's the first time he's ever been over at night.
All right, I'm going to have to end it here because I see where you're going with it.
Well, I'm just asking a question.
Well, you keep asking the same thing over and over and over.
Well, that wasn't.
And that's all I can tell you.
Boy, that was quick, though. You start talking about his little alibi, and boom.
Harvey and Allen's interview of Bull was great. If you're trying to picture whether or not someone like Bull could be a shooter, ask yourself this question. Do you think that me, Kelly, could find some man who's a little socially awkward and I couldn't convince him to kill somebody for me? Same thing. I'm pretty sure I could. And you know Becky could. She's smarter than I am. After talking to Bull and being able to verify Heath's alibi the night Kirby was killed, it's clear to us we have found the man who shot Kirby. Now we need to prepare the case for presentation to the DA. You got your circumstantial evidence, huge piece of evidence. Bull, for the very first time, admitted to having sex with Becky.
And it was just casual sex, which goes right back to us thinking, she's just giving it to him a little bit here and there.
He's now changed his bizarre excuse for why he used a payphone that night to call Becky.
Never said anything about I had extra change in my pocket.
And when they pushed him for why he unexpectedly showed up at the Harmon's house for the very first time ever that night, he just hopped right out of the car.
Every time Alan went to press him and turn the fire up on the stove a little bit, he reached for the damn door handle.
Did he really? Wait a minute.
We now have enough circumstantial evidence against Becky for being the mastermind of this murder and Bull for being the trigger man. Oh, hi.
Hi.
I'm Kelly.
I'm Julia Slater.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Al Whitaker.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. We have found numerous witnesses who can talk about the fact that Becky was vengeful and even violent.
She kicked in my front door. We tried to hide from her because I was scared.
She's even talked about killing Kirby in the past.
She told him a number of times that she would kill him or have him killed.
We've learned that Becky could have very easily adjusted her work schedule to manufacture an alibi that night.
I'm telling you, she can plan that.
Wow. And on the day of the murder, there was an excessive amount of phone calls between Becky and Bull.
There's 29 total calls.
Especially at 9 p.m., the time when we all think Kirby was killed. He wants to tell her because he wants her to be impressed.
Yes, of course.
And last of all, you have motive. For Becky, that life insurance policy was worth a heck of a lot more than she was ever going to get if she divorced him. A divorce that was only days away from being final. And for Bull, it was only all about making Becky happy. This case is great. Let's just hope the DA agrees.
So, Miss Julie, what did you think?
I feel like that, with circumstantial cases, if I know that this is the right person, and I know there's enough evidence that a jury could convict him, sometimes you just have to go to trial and see if they will convict him. And I think you've got everything we need.
All right.
Ready to go.
That's awesome.
That's good to hear.
We'd like to go get some warrants today.
All right, go for it.
That is awesome.
They might be slow talking in Georgia, but they ain't slow moving.
Here she comes.
Time to rock and roll.
Even though they have a warrant for Becky's arrest, the detectives want to give Becky the chance to maybe dig her hole just a little bit deeper. It's time for them to chat with the mastermind behind Kirby's murder.
We want to cover, the weekend that the
Murder occurred. Do you remember who the other nurses were that came in?
I don't remember.
Right.
Who'd you work with last Thursday?
Him.
Just him? I mean, who else did you see, though? Who was in the office on Thursday?
I can tell you in a minute.
But it's not
Well,
that
you're
significant.
much better than I am from 10 years ago.
But it's not a significant event.
Yeah, but the event was not my job. The event was losing Kirby.
Yeah, right.
All right, moving on.
Okay.
Next question.
And look who's running this interview.
Yep, her.
Becky Smith Haynie is not a normal person. She's cold. She never misses a beat. She answers the questions exactly how she wants to.
How about Bull?
What about him?
You're in Bull's relationship. Did y'all ever have a sexual relationship?
No.
Never.
No.
Would it surprise you if Bull has told us that y'all did?
Yeah, because we haven't, so.
Well, Bull said it yesterday.
Well, that's
and
a
you,
lie.
That's a lie?
That's a lie.
When you go back and you look and review all your cell phone records.
And you have motive for Kirby to be dead.
You think I hired Heath to do it? Is that what you're asking me?
No, I want to know if you had Bull do it.
No, I didn't have anybody.
Because I know
do
where
it.
Heath was.
Bull was at work that night.
Yeah, he was at work.
Well, okay then. If he's at work, how did he do it?
The murder happened before he went to work. We know that.
Randy's gonna wave us when they're ready.
Randy had a plan to signal Harvey and Matt when it seemed like they were running to dead ends with Becky, and I'm thinking it's about time for him to send up that signal.
He's waving. He's waving.
Go, Matt. She didn't know they're walking up on her.
When I go after somebody, it's not in the way that you're thinking, oh, I've got a plan, oh, I'm going to go and have him killed. Okay, no. So if you want to push me, then I can push back.
Mm-hmm.
If he wants to get down and dirty, then we can get down and dirty.
You want to know?
No, I don't think so.
I'm sorry, Flash Dog.
Oh, I do remember the name.
You're under arrest.
Okay.
Turn around.
Do you think she's acting a little calm for a person who didn't do this?
She realized the potential was there that this could come.
What do you think should happen to the person or persons who did this to Kirby?
It's an eye for an eye. They took a life, then their life should be given. And there's a lot of people that love Kirby. Whoever that person is, he or she, I have so much hatred in my heart for the unknown person. And I can never forget. And they deserve to pay for that.
While Becky was being arrested, the guys had uniformed patrol officers sent out to get eyes on Bull.
You know what they should say when they're hooking him? We talked to her today, and she said you might very well have done this, just to see his reaction. Maybe he'll start rolling on her.
We're hoping that they're going to get lucky because you never know how Bull might react. Is he going to run? Is he going to fight? What's he going to do?
Right there.
Ben, put your hands behind your back. Right hand. Right hand.
81 clear. 14 clear.
Double cuffed him.
10 years ago, when this case came out, I was just a buck private, rookie detective. You know, after so much time, knowing that this is no longer a cold case, I can take that picture down beside my office. It's a great feeling.
Got it? They're getting it over here, too.
I will sleep good tonight.
Since they moved so fast here in Columbus, Georgia, in a matter of hours, we were able to witness the double arrest of Becky and Bull.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
How are you, girlie?
Good, how are you?
A lot of people knew Kirby. A lot of people know Dustin, and they know Heather. The minute this gets out, their phones are going to be blowing up. I don't think that it's fair that they find out that way.
So you want to know what we were doing at 4 o'clock today? We were all sitting in a parking lot watching Randy and Matt and Harvey put handcuffs on the wrist of Becky and arrest her for the murder of your daddy. And she is now charged with murder.
Are you serious?
Yeah. She's sitting in jail, baby. About an hour after that, Randy and Matt and Harvey were putting handcuffs on the wrist of Bull and arresting him for the murder of your daddy. And right now, they're both sitting in the custody of the Columbus, Georgia PD jail.
This is good news.
It's a beautiful case against both of them. And if you sit down and think of all of it with your common sense, she masterminded it and Bull pulled the trigger.
I told you. I said that when you have a reaction like that at the funeral, that she may not have pulled the trigger, but she knows who did, or she had something to do with it.
All those little things are pieces of the story that go to show she's guilty.
I'm just upset for little Kirby. Because now he doesn't have a mom or a dad.
He's got you.
It's not fair. And so I'm happy that somebody is going to pay for taking him away from us.
It's too soon, man. It hadn't even soaked in yet. I think I'll feel more peace when it's final and the judge drops the gavel.
You should sit down with Randy and with Matt, okay, because they're going to be taking this from here on out.
There's nobody better. Your DA is fantastic. Your cops adore you and are wonderful.
That's what Randy's been telling me all along. I want to do this for you.
I'm very glad you decided to come.
Well,
thank you.
It's been 10 long years.
I know. It's a horrible story because your dad was a great guy.
If he was here, he'd give you a big old hug for helping us.
I bet he would. Well, give us a hug, and we'll let you start making all your phone calls. Kirby's kids are just like Kirby must have been. There's no pretense. They are what they are. And for them to just want to hug us because that's what their dad always did, I can't think of a better way to end a case and a better way of saying thank you.